What's good, everybody? Grind to Shine Recovery. I'm here with Bigskitz, rapper. Kind of tell us about yourself. How long you been doing your thing, and from there we'll get into your life story, kind of.
Well, I started doing the music 16 years old. I started doing it before that a little bit, but 16 was when I really did the first tape that I put out and everything. And been doing it solid. I took a few breaks here and there, but for the most part, you know, basically a whole life thing. It's been a passion of mine. I don't think it will ever die, no matter what. Like I said, I take breaks, but the passion always comes back, and I always end up back in the booth. So
That's
that's what
awesome,
I do.
man. That's what it's about. You got to chase your dream. So, I know you've had kind of a rough life. So, but you want to touch on like what led you down the path where you struggle with addiction in your life and things like that.
Yeah. Man, it's the basic story of a lot of guys. I grew up without a dad and single mother. Worked hard, didn't have a lot of time for me. I was pushed off on the grandparents a lot, and grew up in a rough area, around a lot of rough areas, and it led to a rough life like a lot of others. And I try not to complain about it a lot because it made me who I am. But it led me down that road, and then when I did the music, of course, doing music, a lot of times the party life comes with that. When you're doing shows and stuff, people are just handing the stuff to you for free, giving you the drinks for free. It's just flowing, and that becomes a part of your life every day. And and then what's the worst part about addiction is it gets to a point where you're just trying to get well, and you'll hear a lot of addicts saying they're just trying to get well, and
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
just
even
trying.
fun anymore.
Yeah, you're just trying to feel normal for the day.
Yeah, it's not even fun anymore. You're just trying to avoid not feeling like you're gonna die.
Yeah, yeah. So, kind of, what was some of the low points like? What was a low point that made you kind of feel like you had to turn stuff around? Because I've kind of followed you on TikTok. I know a little of your story. So if you don't mind, could we touch on like where was the turning point for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was sleeping on floors and garages in the wintertime. I was sleeping in abandoned houses. The lowest of the low, man. Like having absolutely nothing. There's been multiple times in my life where addiction led me down a road where I had to completely walk away from everything I owned. And without a single thing left except for the clothes on my back, and
Did
totally
you
restart. What'd you say?
did you get incarcerated due to your addiction? I mean, was that a part of your story or?
Never no hard time, but to the county jail a whole lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
to the county jail a whole lot, but never no. I got lucky enough to never have to do no real hard time, but
Well, that's
yeah,
good though. I mean, any of it don't matter. It's all, um, if it's 6 months is easier said than done. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
um, till you got to do it, it sounds short. But yeah. So I guess what go back to kind of what was the turning point? Like you were saying you were sleeping on garage floors and going
Yeah.
through a lot of struggle. So kind of what was the turning point where you?
Well, the turning point, definitely. I've sleeping on the floors, living a horrible life. I was working in construction, and then it got to the point where I feel like I couldn't really breathe, and like I feel like my body was so beat up and so weak. I started thinking, hey, this is just old age. I'm 28 years old. I go to a hospital, and they tell me, your heart's failing. You're pretty close to death. They end up telling me that my heart's at 5% function, the muscle in it, and I ended up staying in the hospital for almost 3 months from that moment on, and that led to multiple surgeries. And at that point, I didn't have no choice. It was either you change or you die. And I thought I was going to die anyways. The doctors literally went and told my family, you need to tell this guy, your goodbyes because he's probably not going to make it through the year. And there was 8 months left in the year. That became, in my mind, I got 8 months left. So it led me to, and that, even through the sobriety, through that led me through probably one of the darkest chapters of my life because I went through the sickness alone. I went through the surgeries alone. There was a few friends here and there, but for the most part, I did it all myself. I was bedridden by myself and literally went through hell.
Man, and now I mean your life's turned around quite a bit to where like you got your own little body shop thing going, right? Along with
Yeah.
your music.
Yeah, I paint custom cars. I paint Harleys, and the music's doing better than it's ever did.
That's
So yeah,
awesome, man. I mean,
everything's turned around.
you're definitely talented. as far as your music and as far as what you do with the cars, man. I've seen some sick rides that you did. So,
I appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm trying to think like for those out there, me and you talked the other day. We both lost a lot of friends due to the addiction.
Yeah.
For those still out there, man, like what words of wisdom or what encouragement would you have for them, man? Or
it's never the thing about addicts that I've always witnessed with my eyes is they don't ever get right until they want to get right. Everybody can want you to get right, but just making the faster transition instead of letting it go, because as an addict, I've been there. I know that every single night you lay in bed telling yourself you hate yourself. I know that you lay in bed every night saying this is the last night. For some reason, you wake up in the morning and you go right after it, and to cut that, you got to realize that life is like a remote control and only you can, change the channel. No one else can change that for you, and it's a hard road, but really, the sickness that everybody avoids, it's horrible, but it's only a couple weeks and then your whole life is going to change. And, I could tell you from the bottom of my heart, man, with all truthfulness, when I got away from all those drugs and all that stuff, the quality of life in every single way, I had worked my way to a point where I was away from my kids, everything was fucked up. And I got to the point where now I get to see my children. They love me, the business is going, everything's turned around. My heart's at 25% now, which is not crazy, but it was at 5%. I'm able to,
that's 20% more than you had, right?
Yeah, and and that's the thing too. It gets misconstrued. Your heart, a normal person's heart's not at 100 because 100% because over the years you break your heart down. So a normal person's muscle in there is about 60%. So when you hear the 25%, not as bad as you think it is. Because most people hear 25 and they think automatically think 100 is what everybody else is.
I feel you. Yeah. So. Man, yeah, you do have a really inspiring story, man. How long have you been doing? You said you've been doing your music thing since you were 16.
Yeah.
You've dropped. I know you've done some songs with some pretty big artists.
Yeah.
And you've never. I know you're starting to have more success than you've had throughout all this time. I mean, I respect that you keep chasing it. And you're talented,
Yeah.
Trying to get your music out there on social media is hard because it's very saturated. Music's saturated. So yeah, man, I'm glad to see you getting traction right now. On TikTok and everything.
Yeah, I love TikTok, man. We was talking about that. That application is a blessing for artists, and I highly recommend anybody that's out there chasing your dream. That's whether you're painting, drawing, making music, working on cars, whatever you're doing, get on that app, man. And not only that, but I'm gonna tell you something. Facebook is notorious for negativity, man. It's like a cesspool of negativity. I tell you what, TikTok is a lot of positivity, man.
I was amazed. I was amazed with the recovery community over there, how big it was. There's a lot of positive people on there, and they're receptive to people that's on Matt. Because let's face it, man, like addiction, if some person is using that to get their life together and get sober, we should support them. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. It's not about we should never judge one another. So man, I hope to have you back on, because I think you're really going to blow up here over the next year, man. You got a collab with Matt Towns, who I've had on, which I can't wait to see that, man.
I got a lot of features out there with Jelly Roll too, man. He's really popping in the industry right now. So, head over to YouTube, check that out.
Yeah, and I'm gonna link your channel down in the comments, bro.
All right on, man. I appreciate the time, man.
Oh, no problem. I'd love to have you back on, man. Everyone stay up and stay sober. Hang